Hello guys, welcome to another free lecture. Sa subject naman tayo ngayon na soil science. So simulan na natin. Question number one. Sabi dito, a farmer asked for advice on fertilizer and crop response in a specific field. So ano yung hiningi daw na advice ni farmer? It's more on the fertilizer at ano yung magiging response ng pananim niya on a particular field. Now, which perspective is being applied more directly? Ngayon, sa soil science, meron actually tayong dalawang perspective on how we approach this study. Isipin nyo na lang, kumbaga, dalawang pamamaraan kung paano aralin ang siyensya ng lupa. So, meron tayong tinatawag na edaphology and then pedology. So ano bang pinagkaiba ng dalawang ito? So we have edaphology and pedology. So when you say that the approach deals directly with the soil in relation sa pagpapalaki ng crops, yun po yung natawag nating edaphology na approach. Okay? So kapag pinag-aaralan natin yung lupa, base sa kung paano lumaki yung halaman doon sa lupa na yon. So here, we're also talking about the nutrients of the soil. We're also talking about the fertilizer na pwedeng idagdag doon sa lupa. When we're talking about anything that is related to crops, yan, kapag related sa crop growth, edaphology po yan. Okay? Kapag naman related lang siya doon sa pag-aaral ng soil as a natural body, no? Kung ano yung origin ng soil, paano nabuo yung soil, how will you classify it, ano yung iba't ibang mga horizons niya, pedology naman ang tawag doon. So therefore, ulitin ko lang, so edaphology, when we're studying soil in relation to the growth of crops, pedology naman, when we are studying soil as a natural body. Okay? Kaya yung mga scientists na ang approach sa pag-aaral ng soil is related sa crops na nasa farm, for example, ang tawag sa kanila, edaphologists. Okay? Yung mga scientists naman na makikita natin sa iba't ibang mga, for example, archaeological sites kung saan pinag-aaralan nila yung edad ng lupa, yung formation ng lupa, ang tawag natin sa kanila pedologists because they are looking at the soil as a natural body. So here, remember, the question is asking about how the soil functions in crop production. Kasi ano yung tinatanong ni farmer? Humingi siya ng advice kung ano daw yung advice for fertilizer and crop response in the soil. So basically, ang hinihingi ni farmer is the soil functions in crop production. So therefore, hindi siya humihingi ng advice on how the soil is formed. So hindi siya pedology. So hindi siya pedology. So kung hindi siya pedology, ano ngayon yung approach ng pag-aaral? Kasi ang hinihingi niya is advice in relation to the soil na konektado sa crop growth niya. Siya ay, ang approach na ginamit niya is edaphology. So, is looking at the perspective of an edaphologist. Okay? So, edaphologist. So, ang tamang sagot dito ay letter A, edaphologist. So, bakit kaya mali ito? Ano ba kasi yung hydrologist? When you say hydrologist, it mainly focuses on, so with the word hydro, it focuses on water. Water movement, water storage, water distribution, yan, hydrologists yan. About geologists, so geologists naman, it's more on the study of rocks, minerals, and earth materials. But basically, kapag tinanong kayo sa exam kung ano yung dalawang klaseng approach in studying soil science, you only have two, edaphology and pedology. Okay? Now, when we say edaphology, we're talking about the study of soil in relation to crop growth. When we say pedology naman, the study of soil as a natural body. Ano yung kanyang origin, paano siya nabuo, etc. Okay? Next question. Which horizon is typically the main zone of illuviation in a mineral soil profile? Now, ano yung ibig sabihin ng illuviation dito? Dinescribe na niya, no? Illuviation daw is the accumulation of clay, iron or aluminum, or humus in what kind of soil profile? In a mineral soil profile. So we are looking at the soil horizon na tinaguriang ding zone of illuviation. Ano kaya ang sagot dyan? Is it A, B, C, or D? So remember guys, sa mineral soil profile natin, meron tayo ilang horizon. So usually, kapag mineral soil yan, meron kang horizon A, siya yung nasa pinakatuktok, or yung topsoil na tinatawag. We have horizon B, yan. Isa naman yung sumusunod dun sa topsoil. And then horizon C. And then we have our horizon, or yung ating bedrock. So horizon C, yan naman yung parent material. Now, usually, kapag mineral soils, ang isang characteristic ng mineral soils is that napakarami pong clay content dyan, napakaraming iron and aluminum oxides, and nag-a-accumulate siya dyan sa lupa. Wala masyadong organic matter. Now, the question is asking for which horizon that is typically called the zone of illuviation. Simulan natin sa horizon A. Ang horizon A sa mineral soil, okay, is ang horizon A sa mineral soil, yan yung tinatawag natin, nabanggit ko kanina, na topsoil. Okay? So, ang topsoil, sa tingin yun, may naiipon ba na mga particles yan? May naiipon kaya? Wala, ano? So, bakit wala? Well, kasi siya yung pinaka-topmost part ng lupa. So basically, ang sinasabi dyan, dito sa topsoil, since siya yung topmost part ng lupa, lahat ng mga materials yan, okay, pababa. So hindi naiipon yung particles sa horizon A, but rather, ano nangyayari? Nag-e-exit yung mga particles sa horizon A. Okay? So tama, no? Nag-e-exit actually yung mga particles sa horizon A. In fact, ang horizon A mo or yung topsoil mo, ito yung tinatawag nating zone of eluvation. Okay? Zone of eluvation. So ano ang ibig sabihin ng eluvation? Ang ibig sabihin ng eluvation is yung opposite ni eluvation. So tandaan niyo na lang, yung letter E dyan, it means exit. Okay? So ano yung nag-e-exit? Right? Nag-e-exit yung mga mineral material dyan. Due mostly because of leaching. So for example, kapag umulan, yung mga minerals dyan sa topsoil natin, nawawash out sila. So kunwari umulan, nawawash out sila. So saan ngayon sila naiipon? Naiipon sila sa horizon B. Okay? So yung horizon B natin, yan na po yung tinatawag nating zone of illuviation. Okay? So base doon sa question, ito na yung tamang sagot. So tandaan nyo, zone of illuviation, meaning yung I dyan, it means in. Okay? In. Ano yung pumapasok? Ano yung naiipon? Ang naiipon po dyan ay yung mga mineral materials. Kasi nga, nawawash out siya from horizon A, so naiipon siya sa baba ni horizon A, which is si horizon B, kaya si B, tinagurian siyang zone of illuviation. Okay? And typical sa mga mineral soils, dito mo makikita talaga yung karamihan ng mga mineral particles katulad ng mga nabanggit like clay, iron and aluminum oxides, and some sort of humus. Okay? So ang tamang sagot dyan ay letter B, B horizon. So ano ba kasi yung horizon O naman? Yung horizon O po natin, wala po yan sa mineral soil profile ha. Almost. Bihira pong nagpapakita ang O horizon sa isang mineral soil profile. Bakit? Ano ba ang O horizon? O horizon is, O means organic. Okay? So ang organic horizon, nakikita mo lang yan sa mga organic soils. So usually mga plant litters and other decomposing organic matters. So makikita natin yan typically sa mga organic soils but not in mineral soil profiles. Okay? Now ano naman yung horizon R? Now yung horizon R, yan na po yung ating tinatawag na bedrock or regolith. Okay? Now, ang horizon R, hindi po yan lupa. Usually, bato po yan. So, it's a layer of consolidated rock beneath the soil profile. So, dyan nang gagaling yung horizon C, which is the parent material of the soil. So, I hope klaro yun. So, kapag tinanong kayo sa exam, ano yung zone of eluviation? Automatic dapat horizon A yan or topsoil. Eluviation, yung E doon means exit. Clay minerals or minerals, mineral particles are exiting dun sa horizon A papunta sa horizon B. Kaya si horizon B, siya naman yung zone of eluviation. Minerals are coming in. Doon po naiipon sa horizon B. Kaya si horizon B, tinawag siyang zone of eluviation. So kapag tinanong ulit kayo, how about yung O horizon? Present pa siya sa isang mineral soil profile? Hindi po present. Ang O horizon ay present lamang sa isang organic soil profile. Next question. In many tropical soils, strong leaching commonly results in which profile features? So sa mga typical daw na tropical soils, ano kaya kasi ang ibig sabihin ng typical na tropical soils? Strong leaching results to which profile feature? Okay? Now, ang question muna natin, ang kailangan muna nating malaman is, ano ba? Ano ba ang common sa isang tropical environment? Now, sa isang tropical environment, katulad ng Pilipinas, ang common sa atin is that very warm ang temperature. So, we have a warm temperature and at the same time, mataas ang rainfall. Okay? So, very warm ang temperature, tapos mataas pa ang rainfall. Now, this rainfall here, is very important in speeding up yung tinatawag nating translocation, kung saan yung lupa ay natatransport sa iba't ibang horizons beneath it. Okay? And the mechanism kung paano nangyayari yon is through what we call as leaching. So, kumbaga, isipin nyo, yung lupa, it is heavily washed. Kumbaga, nahuhugasan siya kasi nga, lagi na lang umuulan, so yung lupa, nahuhugasan siya, nawawala ngayon, or nawawash out ngayon, kumbaga, yung mga different nutrients and soluble minerals. From the upper part, so nawawash out from the upper part yung mga minerals, papunta ngayon doon sa mga lower horizons. So basically, actually, itong question na to, related siya doon sa question kanina. Right? So tandaan natin yung ating soil profile ng mineral soil. Ano yung soil profile ng mineral soil? We have horizon A or the topsoil, horizon B or the zone of eluviation, and we have horizon C sa baba. Ito lang naman yung importante, yung A at saka yung B. So sa isang tropical area, dahil mataas ang rainfall, laging nauulan-ulan dito. At kapag umuulan-ulan dyan, nawawash out yung mga minerals na nandito. Saan siya papunta? Doon sa zone of eluviation. Okay? So dito po, naiipon yung mga minerals. So may clue na tayo kung paano sasagutin yung tanong. Kasi sabi dito, in many tropical soils, strong leaching commonly results in which profile feature? So we know that that profile feature has something to do with yung silbi horizon nag-iipon ng mga mineral particles. Okay? Or ng mga, let's say, yan, ng mga mineral particles. Diyan nag-accumulate yung mga salts, yung mga iron, yung mga aluminum, etc. Okay? So kung pupunta tayo dito sa options, si letter D, alam natin mali na yan. Kasi sabi ni letter D, dominance of organic horizons daw caused by low decomposition rates. Now, hindi, no? Kasi in fact, ang nangyayari, in a tropical soil, hindi organic yung soil natin. In fact, in tropical areas, yung soil natin is mostly mineral soil. So wala kang organic horizon na makikita dyan. How about letter C? Very weak horizon development due to freezing and thawing. Now, freezing and thawing, hindi pwedeng mangyari yan. Bakit? Kasi in a tropical area, it is usually warm, right? So, mali na ulit yan. O, how about letter B? Sabi sa letter B, thick accumulation of salts at the surface. Now, ang thick accumulation of salts in the surface, usually nangyayari yan sa mga areas that are dry or arid. Ano? Yung bang tipong hindi halos inuulan. Kasi kapag walang ulan, yung salts nandun siya sa ibabaw. Kasi nga hindi inuulan. Pero dahil tropical yung area natin, madalas umuulan, yung salts na yan bumababa. So by process of elimination, kung mali na si B, C, at saka si D, ang pinakatamang sagot na dyan is si letter A. And indeed, tama si letter A. Ano? The correct answer is A. In tropical soils, kung saan laging may leaching because of strong rainfall, prominent po yung accumulation of clay and iron or aluminum oxides in the subsoil. So ano yung subsoil na tinatawag dyan? Yung subsoil po, yan din po ibang tawag natin sa B horizon. Okay? So yung subsoil na yan din yung ibang tawag natin sa B horizon. So ang naiipon doon, basically yung mga salts, yung mga iron and aluminum oxides, kasi nga, because in a tropical region, laging marami ang ulan, so nalileach, nawawash out sa zone A yung mga salts at bumababa sila sa subsoil, sa horizon B or sa zone of illumination. Okay? So letter A ang tamang sagot dito. Next. Which choice, so alin daw sa mga choices na yan, correctly distinguishes soil texture from soil structure? So hinahanap natin dito is yung statement na tama yung sinasabi nila in terms of describing yung difference ng soil texture at soil structure. Okay? Now, itong soil texture at soil structure na to, yan ay isa sa mga kailangan yung i-master sa exam. Okay? Kasi madalas lumalabas yan. So ano ba ang pagkakaiba ng texture sa soil structure? Okay? Now, when we say soil texture, tinitignan lang po natin dyan yung proportion ng sand, silt, at clay particles. Ang lupa kasi may tatlong particles lang daw yan. Sand, silt, at clay. Ang pinakamalaking particle dyan is the sand. Ang pinakamaliit na particle is the clay. Now, depende sa percentage ng sand, silt, at clay, malalaman natin yung texture ng lupa. So, yun lang po ang sinasabi ng soil texture. So, anong example ng mga soil texture? Nandiyan na papasok yung clayey soils, sandy soils, loamy soils. Sometimes a combination of both. Pwedeng sandy loam soils, sandy loamy clayey soils, silty soils. Yan. So yan yung mga soil texture na binabanggit dyan. So ano ang difference ng soil texture sa soil structure? Ang soil structure naman, ang pinag-uusapan na dito is paano ba na-arrange or paano na-group yung mga particles na to into aggregates. Okay? So, kumbaga, ang soil structure, tinitingnan natin kung paano nabuo. Okay? Paano nabuo or paano nagkumpul-kumpul yung mga lupa at ano yung nagiging shape ng lupa na yon, yung structure na yon, base doon sa pagkukumpul-kumpul nila. Yan. So, anong mga example ng soil structure? Kumare, ang example dyan ng soil structure is yung meron tayong tinatawag na granular structure. Okay? Kumbaga, buhaghag yung lupa. No? Buhaghag. Meron ding structure ng soil kung saan tinatawag nating platy. Yan. So parang mga plato na pinagpatong-patong yung lupa, platy na structure. Meron din yung iba, columnar naman. Yan. So para silang mga rectangular columns. Tapos yung iba, may blocky. Yan, para silang mga square naman na. So it's more of the aggregates ang tinitingnan natin sa soil structure. So given that definition, given this distinction, hanapin natin yung tamang sagot. So sabi dito sa letter A, texture is pore space, structure is mineral composition. Mali po. Okay? Again, kapag sinabi nating texture, tinitingnan natin dyan yung proportion ng sand, silt, and clay. Tapos yung structure naman is more on the aggregates or grouping of the soil particles. Mali na yan. Texture is soil color. Wala rin ako tinurong ganyan. While structure is soil consistency when wet. Mali. Letter C. Texture is sand, silt, clay proportion. Tama. Structure is aggregation pattern of particles. Tama. So letter C ang tamang sagot dito. Letter C. How about sa letter D? Tignan natin. Sabi sa letter D, texture is the arrangement of beds, structure is sand, silt, clay proportion. Baliktad, no? Ang texture, yun ang sand, silt, clay proportion. Ang structure, yan yung arrangement of beds. Next question. A soil core has an internal volume of 100 centimeter cube. After oven drying, the soil mass is 135 grams. What is the bulk density? Okay? Now, ano pa kasi ang bulk density? Okay? Now, ang bulk density, okay ko lang dito BD, para mas madaling matandaan. Tama ba? BD ba ang bulk density? Anyways, may ikon yun eh. Hindi ko na maalala kung ano. But in our case, let's just say bulk density is BD. Ang bulk density, sinasabi niya kung gaano ka-compact yung lupa. Okay? So, gaano ba ka-compact ang lupa? So, ibig sabihin, the higher the bulk density, the more compact is the soil. So, kapag mas mataas yung number na yan, kapag mas mataas ang bulk density, the more compact is the soil. So, kabaliktaran, kapag mas mababa ang bulk density, the less compacted is the soil is. So, basically, tinitingnan natin, gaano ba kasiksik yung lupa? Yun yung bulk density. Now, there is a formula in getting the bulk density of the soil. Now, ano yung formula ng ating bulk density? Bulk density is equal to the oven dry mass of the soil. So, it's the oven dry mass of the soil divided by the volume. Okay? Now, in our case, provided po ba yung mass? Yes, no? Provided po yung ating mass. The mass is 135 grams. Okay? Yung ating volume, provided din ba? Yes. The volume is 100 centimeter cube. So what is 135 grams divided by 100 centimeter cube? That is 1.35 grams per centimeter cube. Okay? So yan po yung tamang sagot. 1.35 grams per centimeter cube That is letter D. Okay? Letter D po yan. Next question. Which property is most typical? So, alin daw ang mostly typical or common sa mga soils that are near beaches that affects crop growth? So, we are looking at something na typical sa mga lupa na malapit sa dagat, sa mga beach, no, sa mga coastal areas that affects crop growth. Okay. Now, sa tingin nyo, madali ba o mahirap magpalaki ng halaman sa mga coastal soils? Okay. So the answer, to answer that question, medyo challenging po, no? Na magpalaki ng mga halaman sa mga coastal areas natin. Why? Kasi usually, yung mga lupa po sa ating coastal areas, they are very loosely aggregated. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila masyadong dikit-dikit, medyo buhaghag yung lupa. At dahil po buhaghag yung lupa, dahil the soils are too loose, what happens then? Hindi na-hold yung tubig. And yung plant nutrients, dahil hindi na-hold yung tubig, hindi rin siya na-hold doon sa lupa. It means this. So because of that, it means na kapag umulan, yung mga nutrients na nasa lupa, nawawash away lamang siya. Okay? So yun yung tinatanong sa question. So ano daw yung typical sa mga soils near beaches that affects crop growth? And the answer is, so base dun sa analysis natin na hindi madaling magtanim sa mga coastal areas kasi nga buhaghag yung lupa, natidrain agad yung tubig, nahuhugasan agad yung mga nutrients. Tamang sagot ay letter A. Tama. So sa mga areas na malapit sa yung mga lupa, malapit sa beaches, very rapid ang drainage diyan kasi nga buhaghag yung lupa and mabilis rin na ma-wash out or mahugasan yung mga nutrients na nandiyan. How si letter B? Bakit mali yan? B says strong shrink swell behavior and deep cracking. So usually itong letter B na to, typical yan sa mga soils that are very, very rich in expanding clays. Okay? So, kapag mataas yung clay content, especially kapag yung content na yun is an expanding type of clay, usually nagkakaroon ng shrink swell behavior. How about letter C? High clay content and very high CEC. Now, that is actually not a characteristic of a coastal soil or a soil near the coastal area. In fact, kapag mataas ang clay content and very high yung CEC, ibig sabihin mayaman sa clay yung area na yun. That is not typical of coastal soils. High organic matter accumulation and high retention, high water retention, kabaliktaran siya nung binabanggit natin about soils in coastal areas. In fact, yung mga soils sa coastal areas, bukod sa buhaghag yung aggregates ng kanilang soil, isa pang mapapansin natin dyan is that hindi ganon karami yung clay content niya. Kasi nga hindi siya makapag-hold ng water. And at the same time, hindi rin ganon kataas yung organic matter content. So dahil hindi mataas ang clay content at organic matter content, hindi rin mataas yung CEC na tinatawag. So ano ba yung CEC? Cation exchange capacity. Ang cation exchange capacity, isipin nyo na lang, yan yung capacity ng lupa na mag-magnet ng nutrients. So magnet po yan. So kapag mas mataas ang organic matter, kapag mas mataas ang clay content, mas mataas yung capacity ng lupa na mag-magnet ng nutrients. Mas mataas yung kanyang CEC na tinatawag. Pero ang mga coastal soils o yung mga soils near beaches, mababa ang CEC ng mga yan. Bakit? Kasi mababa ang organic matter content at mababa ang clay content. Next question. Why is irrigated rice often difficult to grow in areas very near beaches? Nasagot na natin. So bakit kaya mahirap daw magpalaki ng rice dun sa mga areas na malapit sa beaches or coastal soil? Sabi natin kanina, yung mga coastal soils natin, yung mga soils that are near beaches, mahirap magpalaki dyan kasi hindi niya nahuhold yung tubig. At the same time, nawawash out lagi yung nutrients. So hanapin natin yung pinakamalapit doon sa description na yun. So letter A, the soils are too rich in nitrogen and cause lodging. Mali. Okay, wala naman tayong sinabi dyan that beach soils are too rich in nitrogen. Wala tayong binanggit na gano'n. Letter B, the soils have excessive clay. Again, excessive clay is already wrong. Kasi nga sabi natin, yung mga soils that are near beaches, wala masyadong clay content yan. Letter C, the soils are too acidic for rice to tolerate. Tama kaya yun? Well, we did not mention yung acidity, ano? But although possible na yan yung reason, hindi yan yung pinaka-reason, specifically when we are relating the the problem of soils that are near beaches or coastal areas. So by process of elimination, alam natin na tamang sagot na dyan is letter D. No? So letter D is the correct one. Kasi nga, kapag yung lupa ay malapit sa beach, it has poor water holding capacity. And dahil rice yung tanim mo, at yung lupa mo ay hindi kayang mag-hold ng tubig, paano mapapalaki ng maayos yan, di ba? Ang rice, kailangan yan nakabatad sa tubig. Tama? Kailangan nakasubmerge yan sa tubig. Hindi mo pwedeng isubmerge yung tubig sa isang sandy or sa isang lupa na malapit sa beaches kasi nga poor ang water holding capacity. Okay? So, letter D ang sagot dyan. Letter D. Next, in corn, which symptom set most closely matches nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium deficiencies respectively? Okay? So, tinitingnan natin yung symptom na nangyayari doon sa ating halaman kapag kulang daw dapat magkakasunod-sunod kapag kulang ang nitrogen, so that's number 1 symptom. Kapag kulang ang phosphorus, so that's number 2 symptom. So that's number 1, number 2 symptom. And kapag kulang ang potassium, that's number 3 symptom. Okay. So ano kaya ang tamang sagot dyan? Now the key to answering this question is to connect yung bawat nutrient deficiency with each symptom pattern. Okay? So unahin natin yung nitrogen. Isipin natin, ano ba yung nangyayari doon sa halaman kapag kulang ang nitrogen? So, kapag kulang ang nitrogen, okay? Kapag kulang po ang nitrogen, usually, since nitrogen is very important in yung pagkaberde ng halaman. So pag kulang ang nitrogen, what happens? Doon sa ating leaves, doon sa leaves ng halaman, usually nagiging pale, no? Or nagiging yellowish yung dahon ng halaman. Pero anong specific na dahon ang nagiging pale or nagiging yellowish? Now, question, ano ho ba kasi ang nitrogen? Is it a mobile or immobile nutrient? So your nitrogen is a mobile, ano? So yan ay nutrient na gumagalaw. So dahil gumagalaw siya, saan siya gumagalaw? From the older leaves going to the newer leaves, right? So dahil kulang, sino ngayon ang nawawalan? Yung older or yung newer? Ang nawawalan is yung older leaves, ano? So since dahil ang nitrogen ay gumagalaw, galing sa older leaves papunta sa newer leaves, kapag kulang yan, yung older leaves mo, sila yung napag-iiwanan. Kaya, yung mga leaves ng older leaves, nagiging, sige natin dito, yung old leaves, sila yung nagiging pale and nagkakaroon ng yellowing. Okay? Next, ano naman yung sakit kapag kulang ang phosphorus? So that's number 2. O kapag naman kulang ang phosphorus, ano yung maaalala nyo? So kapag kulang ang phosphorus, actually, yung isang maaalala nyo dito dapat agad-agad is yung magkakaroon ng purple na color. Okay? So P, phosphorus, yung dahon nagiging purplish. Okay? Nagiging parang color violet. Yan. So dapat maalala nyo yun. No? Number 3, yung potassium. Naman yung potassium natin. O, yung potassium natin, remember, is a what? Is it a mobile or immobile nutrient? Sige, kayo na bahala sumagot dyan. No? But basically, ang symptom ng ating potassium is that nagsisimula siya sa older leaves din. Okay, so dahil nagsisimula siya sa older leaves, ang potassium natin is mobile. Okay, and usually, ang symptom ng potassium deficiency is yung dahon parang nasusunog yung gilid-gilid niya. So kung yan yung dahon, itong gilid-gilid ng dahon na yan, yung area na yan, parang nasusunog-sunog dyan. Ang tawag dyan, leaf scorching or leaf burn. Okay? So dahil na-discuss na natin yung mga common deficiency symptoms ng NPK, hanapin natin tamang sagot. Letter A, sabi dyan, si nitrogen daw, older leaves show marginal scorch. Mali. Okay? Kasi kapag nitrogen ang deficient, hindi po scorch, but rather paling or yellowing. So mali na yan. How about letter B? Young leaves show white streaking. Older leaves become purplish. Roots become swollen. Again, wala akong nabanggit na white streaking. So this is already wrong. Okay? Phosphorus, possible, no? Possible kasi purplish. Pero potassium causes roots to become swollen. Wala rin akong nabanggit. Yan. So mali na to si letter B. How about si letter C? Older leaves turn pale. So tama. Yan yung nitrogen deficiency. Older leaves turn pale. Plants may become purplish and stunted. So again, yung word na purplish, tama. That is phosphorus deficiency. And then older leaf margins become scorched. Yan. So very good. Yung potassium deficiency nagkukos ng scorching of the margins of the leaf. So, ang tamang sagot ay letter C. How about si letter D? Plants become purplish. Mali. No? Kasi ang nitrogen, hindi niya pinapa-purple yung plant. But rather, ginagawa niyang pale or nagkakos ng yellowing doon sa dahon. Older leaves turn pale. Ano yan? Yan daw ay phosphorus. Older leaves turn pale. Mali. Okay? Ang nagkukos ng pag-pale ng older leaves is nitrogen dapat. Young leaves show marginal scorch. So, ito yung potassium sana, no? Yan. Potassium sana yan. When young leaves show marginal scorch. Tama na sana na potassium ito. So, mali yung ginamit dito na qualifier din sa leaves. No? Kasi kapag kulang ang potassium, since potassium is mobile, gumagalaw siya, it should be that older leaves shows marginal scorch. Okay? So sana klaro yon yung mga different symptoms ng ating NPK deficiency. Next question. Which pairing best matches how NP and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, is most commonly reach NP and K most commonly reach root surfaces under typical field conditions. So hinahanap natin yung mechanism by which itong si NPK can move to the roots of the plant under field conditions. So ano ba kasi yung tatlong mechanisms natin? Meron tayong tatlong mechanisms on how NPK moves. So ano yung number one na mechanism? Yung tinatawag nating mass flow. So ang mass flow is a mechanism wherein nutrients will ride along with the water. So long as may tubig, yung nutrients na yan, whether that be N, P, or K, will move with the water in order to reach the roots. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng mass flow. Now, aside from mass flow, meron din tayong tinatawag na diffusion. So, ano naman yung diffusion? Ang diffusion naman po is when nutrients move from a region of low concentration to a region of baliktad. When nutrients and NPK move from a region of high concentration, so isipin nyo, yung region na to maraming mga nutrients going to low concentration. So diffusion naman ang tawag dyan. So sa another mechanism kung paano lumalapit yung NPK doon sa roots ng halaman. And finally, meron tayong tinatawag na root interception. So ang root interception naman, basically ang sinasabi dyan, hindi gumagalaw yung nutrients pero dahil yung roots ay lumalaki, so siya na yung sumasalubong doon sa nutrients. Hindi na yung nutrients ang pumupunta sa roots, baliktad na. Yung roots na ang pumupunta sa nutrient. Okay? So, ano kaya ang tamang sagot? So basically, the question is asking, itong si N, P, at saka si K, ano kaya yung mechanism nila in moving to the root surfaces of the plant? So, ang tamang sagot dito is letter. Okay, so the correct answer here is letter A. Ang nitrogen, usually, in a typical field conditions, mass flow ang ginagamit niyan na mechanism para makarating dun sa root surface ng halaman. Ang phosphorus naman, it is usually through diffusion. And ang potassium, yung K natin, dalawa, it could either be diffusion or mass flow. Si letter B, mali na. Bakit mali si letter B? Kasi may leaching ka. Okay. Ang leaching po ay hindi mechanism, mechanism by which NPK can move to the roots. Okay? Itong tatlo lang yung hahanapin natin. How about letter C? Again, mali na. May leaching, may volatilization. Mali na yan. Ano ba kasi ibig sabihin ng leaching? Leaching means yung lupa na wawash out siya out of nutrients. So kapag umulan, yung parang nawawashing yung lupa, so nahuhugasan, nawawala yung nutrients, yun yung leaching. Ano naman yung volatilization? Yung volatilization is the process kung saan yung minerals from its liquid form, nagiging gas siya. So, volatilization ang tawag dyan. Doon. How about letter D? Diffusion, mass flow, again, leaching na yan, mali na naman yan. So letter A, yung pinakatamang sagot. Next, a soil has a pH of 8. Which nutrient deficiency risk is generally more likely under this condition for many crops? Okay? So ano daw yung soil pH? Soil pH 8. So kapag ang soil pH ay 8, so ibig sabihin mataas yung soil pH niya, it means na yung lupa ay acidic or alkaline. So kapag higher than 7, ang lupa natin is alkaline. Tama. So if it's higher than 7, the soil is alkaline. Now, if the soil is alkaline, the question here is, how does it affect the nutrients in the soil? Okay? paano nakakaapekto yung alkaline na pH ng lupa, which is pH 8, doon sa nutrients na nasa lupa? So letter A, calcium deficiency can happen due to low calcium availability at high pH. Letter B, nitrate toxicity can happen due to fixation of clay at high pH. Letter C, aluminum toxicity can happen due to increased solubility at high pH. Or letter D, iron deficiency can happen due to reduced solubility at high pH. Okay. Now, punta natin si letter A. Sabi dito sa letter A, kapag daw ang pH ay 8, mataas ang pH, nagkakaroon ng calcium deficiency. Now, in many alkaline soils, tandaan nyo ha, in many alkaline soils, actually, ang calcium mayaman. So, kapag ang lupa mo is more alkaline, higher than 7, very abundant actually ang calcium dyan. So, given that fact, mali na si letter A. Kasi sabi niya, kapag daw mataas ang pH, nagkakaroon ng calcium deficiency. Ang totoo, kapag mataas ang pH, ang calcium, nagiging abundant yan, tumataas. Okay? Let's go with letter B. Nitrate toxicity can happen due to fixation by clay at high pH. Okay? Now, ano ang ibig sabihin ng fixation? Ang fixation is yung nangyayari sa lupa kung saan yung nutrients ay nalalak. Okay? So, isipin nyo, itong nutrients na to, yan, nalalak siya. So, kahit na present siya sa lupa, hindi siya pwedeng magamit ng halaman. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng fixation. Now, what is wrong with this statement? Ang mali dito sa statement na to ay what is mentioned na ang nitrate daw can be fixated by the clay at high pH. So bakit mali yan? Kasi ang nitrate, very flexible yan. Kumbaga, very soluble. So ang pinakasakit actually ng nitrate, is hindi yung tipong nalalaktin siya sa lupa, but rather, ang problem sa nitrate is that madali siyang mahugasan or madali siyang ma-leach. So nitrate cannot be fixed. Hindi siya pwedeng malak doon sa lupa. In fact, ang problem ng nitrate is that dahil very soluble siya, kapag umulan, mabilis mahugasan ang nitrate. So letter B now is wrong. How about letter C? Sabi dyan, nagkakaroon daw ng aluminum toxicity. Now, nagkakaroon lamang po tayo, guys, ng aluminum toxicity kapag ang pH ay mababa. Okay? Kapag ang pH ay mababa, tumataas ang aluminum content. Hindi lang aluminum, by the way. Kapag mababa ang pH, tumataas ang aluminum, tumataas rin ang iron sa lupa. Kapag tumaas ng sobra-sobra yung dalawang yan, since these are micronutrients, nagkakaroon tayo ng toxicity. So, hindi deficiency ang nagiging problema, but rather toxicity. Nagiging toxic po yung lupa kasi sobra-sobra yung aluminum at iron na nasa lupa kapag mababa ang pH. So, mali na ulit yan. So, anong nangyayari if the soil pH is too alkaline, it's too high? Yan. So, kapag mataas ang pH, yung iron nagiging deficient. Kapag mataas ang pH. Remember yung iron nagiging deficient kapag mataas yung pH. Pero yung iron nagiging toxic kapag mababa yung pH. So, isipin nyo na lang, so, gawa ko ng table dito. Kapag high ang pH, if we have a high pH, yung calcium mataas, tapos yung iron at aluminum yung iron at aluminum ay mababa kapag high ang pH. Kapag naman low ang pH, ang calcium usually deficient, mababa yan. Tapos, yung iron naman and aluminum, yan naman po yung excessive, kaya siya nagiging toxic. Okay, so that's one way of thinking about the relationship of pH to calcium, iron, and aluminum. So letter D ang tamang sagot dyan. Now, speaking of deficiency, katulad ng sustansya na nakukuha ng halaman sa iba't ibang mga nutrients na nabanggit natin kanina, kailangan sa pag-review, meron din tayong tamang sustansya na nakukuha. Okay? And I'm not talking here about food. Okay? I'm talking here about the resources, the different materials na katuwang nyo or the different tools na kasama nyo kapag nagre-review kayo. So sa aking pagre-review, noong nag-take ako noong 2021, masasabi ko naman na masustansya yung mga resources ko. Bakit? Kasi may mga resources ako that are video resources. That is, kapag ako'y nanonood, basically, ng mga lectures dun sa review center na pinag-enrollan ko noon. Tapos may mga handouts din. Okay? And yung pinaka-importante para sa akin is the fact na gumawa ako ng anti-flashcard text ko or digital flashcards ko. At the same time, I quiz myself almost every day while doing these quizzes. So mahalaga, yes, na meron kang pinapanood na video lectures, na meron kang handouts, pero dapat kasama nun lagi yung meron tayong tools that allows us to practice tests. Okay? Whether answering quizzes or answering flashcards. So yan yung naging technique ko noong 2021 and sa awa ng Diyos, ako naman po ay nag-top. Now, these resources, mas lalong gaganda yan kapag yan po ay structured. And ito yung ino-offer ng Learning Agri with Al. Okay? Learning Agri with Al, nabuo yan last year with the intention of creating an organized and structured resources para sa mga reviewees kagaya nyo na gustong mag-self-review. So ano yung mga inclusions ng Learning Agri with Al? First, merong TOS-based structured lectures sa Google Classroom. Basically, Google Classroom yung ginagamit namin and nandun na lahat ng resources from video lectures to handouts, etc. At the same time, organized pa yung mga lessons and modules na makikita dyan. And for each lesson, may mga quizzes. And on top of that quizzes, meron pang mga flashcards na ipoprovide para talagang mahasa yung memory nyo on the different subjects and on the different topics. Aside from that, ngayon, this particular year, nag-o-offer ako ng online coaching sa mga mag-e-enroll at magre-register sa Learning Agri with Al. So baka isipin nyo, sir, baka naman mahal yan. Ay, hindi naman po. I would say that Learning Agri with Al is quite affordable, especially as compared to other review centers. Ito po yung pricing natin. Okay? So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung pricing natin, pataas siya ng pataas up until July hanggang sa mag-exam kayo sa December. Kasi ang goal ko dito, kapag mas maaga kang nag-review with me, dapat marirewardan ka ng mas affordable na price. So sa ngayon, wala na po yung February na yan, nasa dito na tayo sa March. So ang price na natin is 1,399. So wag na magpatumpik-tumpik pa, no? Mag-enroll na kayo para hindi nyo naabutan yung 1,599 na darating sa April. Okay? Now, kung hindi kayo naniniwala, pumunta lamang po kayo sa page natin, that is Learning Agri with Al. Agle review, Agle na siya, no? Hindi na Leia review. And makikita nyo doon yung mga different reviews from some of my reviewees nung nakaraan na season. In fact, may nag-top notcher pa nga dyan. No? So, talagang nakatulong sa kanila yung Learning Agri with Al. Kahit na self-review lamang sila. Okay? So, kaunting patalastas lamang po. Dako na tayo sa ating next question. So next question, sabi dito, under intense rainfall, which field condition is most likely to experience the greatest loss of soil fertility if all other factors, katulad ng soil type, cover, and management are similar? So basically, ang tinatanong dyan is, kapag daw masyadong malakas ang ulan, aling field conditions, buong A, B, C, and D, ang magkakaroon ng pinakamalaking loss in terms of fertility. Kumbaga, yun talaga yung maaapektuhan. Malaki talaga yung mababawas na nutrients niya. So is it letter D, a gently sloping field with contour strips? So kapag may contour strips siya, in fact, contour strips nakakatulong yan, ano, para hindi masyadong mag-leach yung lupa. It is gently sloping, so ibig sabihin, ano ba ibig sabihin ng gently sloping? Ibig sabihin, water can flow through it kasi nga sloping siya, pero meron kang contour strips that breaks the flow. So, actually, medyo yung method na ginamit dito, masasabi natin that the soil is being conserved. Letter C, a level paddy field with well-maintained bonds. So a level paddy field with well-maintained bonds is designed actually to hold water and reduce runoff. So therefore, positive actually yan. How about a nearly level field with a dense grass cover? So meron kang field dyan, tapos marami pang grass dyan na nakalagay. So maganda yan, no? Hindi basta-basta nababagsakan ng ulan, so maiiwasan dyan ang runoff. So alin yung maapektuhan kapag masyadong malakas yung ulan? Ang maapektuhan po ay kapag yung lupa is masyadong steep. Okay? So sloping, steep na nga siya, at the same time, bare pa siya or hubad. So kapag yung lupa mo ay ganyan, it's very, very steep, ano? At umulan ng pagkalakas-lakas, tapos yung lupa na yan, wala pang cover, abay, asahan mo na magkakaroon nga ng erosion dyan. Yung lupa ay babagsak. Yun lang ang sinasabi ng question na to. So the correct answer is it's letter A. Next, two adjacent upland plots receive the same intense rain. Okay, so yung dalawang lupa daw, nakatanggap sila ng same intense rain. Yung plot A, meron siyang 2% slope. Yung plot B naman, meron siyang 12% slope. Which outcome is most consistent with erosion and fertility concepts? So alin yung may mas mataas na slope? Plot A or plot B? Ang may mas mataas na slope ay si plot B, no? 12%. Ibig sabihin si plot B, mas matarik siya as compared kay plot A. So dahil mas matarik siya, sa tingin nyo, mas mababa ba or mas mataas yung chances of erosion or runoff kay plot B? So ang sagot ay mas mataas. So tandaan nyo ang rule. Kapag mas mataas ang slope, guys, mas mataas rin ang runoff or erosion. Lalo na kapag yung lupa na yan is bare or wala siyang cover crops. Kapag naman mas mababa ang slope, okay, mas mababa ang runoff. So, given that, ang tamang sagot dito ay letter C. Plot B will have a higher runoff and a greater topsoil nutrient loss than plot A. Bakit? Kasi po mas mataas ang slope ni plot B kaysa kay plot A. Next question. Which practice is most appropriate for preventing fertility loss on upland slopes, mainly by reducing runoff energy and soil detachment? So here, we are looking for a practice that prevents fertility loss, or that prevents runoff, or that prevents leaching, or that prevents erosion. So, alin kaya dyan? So, ang isang paraan talaga, no, kapag ang lupa natin is sloping, something like this ang lupa. Kapag umulan, okay, kapag umulan, ang nangyayari dyan is that yung lupa dumadaloy ng paganyan, ng pababa. So, mas mataas yung chances of runoff, no? Kapag sloping yung lupa natin and bare, walang any covers, walang any bonds, etc., nagfo-flow lang palabas yung lupa. Okay? And nakaka-apekto yan dun sa fertility ng lupa. Now, isang paraan para maiwasan or ma-break yung flow ng soil, so isang paraan para ma-break yung flow na yon is by creating what we call as contours. Okay? So, contour farming ang tawag doon. So, instead na dire-diretso lang yung soil mo na parang ganyan, instead na ganyan siya, nag-create ka ng horizontal contours dyan. Okay? Para kapag yung tubig ay tumama, at least, hindi siya dire-diretso. Okay? Nabe-break siya because of that particular contour. And that is actually one way of preserving or protecting our soils against runoff or erosion. Okay? So since ang tinatanong doon sa question is a practice that prevents fertility loss, nabanggit ko na actually yung sagot, ang tamang sagot dyan ay letter B, contour farming with vegetative strips. So minsan gagawin ni farmer, tataniman yan, yung contour na yan, ng mga halaman para ma-break yung momentum ng tubig at hindi mag-cause ng deliberate na runoff or erosion. Letter A, continuous clean cultivation up and down. Ano ibig sabihin? Nilinisin mo yung lupa. Okay? So hindi, magkukos yan ng fertility loss. Natataas yung chance ng runoff at erosion dyan. Removing residues to speed soil warming. Medyo hindi related, ano? At the same time, if you remove the residues, hindi na protektado yung soil mo. Naked na siya, it's bare. How about letter D? Frequent shallow hoeing to keep soil loose. Hindi rin maganda yan. Okay? You don't want the soil to always be loose. You want your soil to have some sort of thickness naman, ano? Or at least medyo dikit-dikit siya para hindi siya laging buhaghag at hindi siya prone for erosion. Next, sabi dito, a cornfield requires 90 kilos nitrogen per hectare. So ano yung requirement daw ng cornfield? 90 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. Now, gagamit ka ngayon ng urea. You will use urea. Ang urea is 46% nitrogen. Kaya nga siya 4600. No? So, 46% nitrogen ang urea. Approximately, how many kilos of urea are needed per hectare? So, in order to solve this, anong gagawin natin? Anong gagawin natin to solve this? Right? So, una, kukunin natin yung field requirement. Ano yung field requirement? 90 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. Okay? 90 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. So, ang sinasabi dyan is, sa bawat isang hektarya, kailangan niya ng 90 kilos of nitrogen. Tapos yung 90 kilos of nitrogen na yan, i-divide natin sa 46%. Kasi yung urea natin is 46% nitrogen. So, 46%. So, ano ang 46% in terms of percentage? 0.46. So, what is 90 divided by 0.46? So, calculator tayo. 90 divided by 0.46. The correct answer is 195.65. Okay? And since ang hinihingi namang amount is approximate, hindi eksakto, kukunin natin yung pinakamalapit dyan, which is letter B. About 195 kilos of urea per hectare. Next question. Another solving. A farmer wants to supply 60 kilos of nitrogen per hectare using chicken manure analyzed at 3% nitrogen na dry basis. Now, assuming all nitrogen is credited for this calculation, how much manure is needed per hectare? Okay, so, similar lang actually. Similar lang nung kwan natin kanina. So, ano ulit yung kailangan na nitrogen nung lupa? Ilang kilos of nitrogen? Ang kailangan is 60 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. Okay? So, i-divide natin yan doon sa nitrogen percent ng chicken manure. So, ilang percent yung chicken manure? 3%. So, yung chicken manure is 3%. So, ano ang 3%? 0.03. So, what is 60 divided by 0.03? Ang tamang sagot ay 2,000. 2,000 what? 2,000 kilos per hectare. So, sinasabi dyan, kapag gagamit siya ng chicken manure at 3% nitrogen, kailangan niya ng 2,000 kilos na chicken manure sa isang hektarya. So, ano ang 2,000 kilos? That is, convert natin yan into tons. That is 2 tons. That is 2 tons per hectare. So, ang tamang sagot ay letter C ang tamang sagot. O, itong next question, madali lang to. Which set correctly lists the major factors of soil formation commonly summarized as CLORT? O, sino ba kasi yung gumawa ng CLORT model na yan? So, gumawa po ng CLORT model na yan ay si Dokuchen. Okay? Siya yung scientist who have developed this CLORT model. And basically, ang sinasabi niyo dyan is, soils can develop through these CLORT factors. At ano po yung mga iba't ibang mga factors na yon? CL stands for climate. Okay, so O stands for organisms. R stands for relief or topography. P stands for parent material, and T stands for time. Yan. So, the correct answer is letter C. Climate, organisms, relief, parent material, and time. Next. Which set correctly identifies horizons that are more characteristic of organic soils than mineral soils? Okay, so, ang hinahanap natin dito, guys, is the soil horizon that is a characteristic of an organic soil, not a mineral soil. Kanina, dun sa mga previous questions natin, we talk about mineral soils, and tatlo lang yung horizon ng mga yon, A, B, at C. Ngayon, ang hinahanap natin, ano ba ang horizon ng organic soils? So, ano ba ang horizon ng organic soils? So, the key idea in this question is actually the difference between organic soils and mineral soils. So, anong pinagkaiba ng organic soil sa mineral soil? Kanina, na-discuss na natin yung mineral soil. Ngayon, na-discuss naman natin yung organic soil. Ang mga organic soils, guys, kaya siya tinawag na organic soils, is because they develop where organic residues accumulate faster than they decompose. So, ibig sabihin, maraming organic matter ang organic soils. And since madami siyang organic matter, ang nangyayari pa dyan is that hindi basta-basta nadidecompose yung organic matter na to. Naiipon lang siya. matagal na naiipon yan. And often, makikita mo yung mga organic soils sa mga areas kung saan laging basa. So the soils here are actually made up of dead plant materials rather than from mineral particles like sand, silt, and clay. So dahil yung organic soils natin ay maraming organic materials, ano ngayon ang very unique sa sa horizon ng organic soils? Okay, so remember ang mineral soils natin, meron siyang A, B, tsaka C, tapos bedrock. Ang organic soil natin, lagi yan magsisimula sa O or minsan meron pa tinatawag na H horizon. So ano yung ibig sabihin ng O at saka H horizon? So yung O horizon is mostly made up of plant residues in different stages of decomposition. Tapos yung H horizon naman, usually yan ay isang water-saturated organic layer with organic soils, katulad na lamang ng tinatawag natin na peat or muck. So yung topmost part ng organic soil natin is mostly organic material. Okay? And we call them O or H horizon. Tapos sa baba niya, meron kang manipis na layer ng A horizon, and then meron kang not so developed na B horizon, then C horizon, and then the bedrock. So here, the correct answer is correct. It's letter B. So C and R, what is that? C is unweathered parent material, R is your bedrock. These are both organic naman at saka mineral soils may ganyan. Okay, kasi parang yan na yung basic na structure ng lupa Para mabuo ang lupa, kailangan may C at saka R layers yan. How about yung E and BT horizons? Ang E at BT horizons is usually for mineral soils. Ano ibig sabihin ng E? E is the zone of eluviation. Okay? Or yung ating, you can think about as your top zone kung saan nag-e-exit yung mga materials. Ano yung BT? BT is the subsoil horizon where, ano yung T? Ibig sabihin ng T dyan is clay. So it's the subsoil, the B horizon where clay is accumulated. So A naman dito, so si letter D, mali din yan. Kasi yung A dyan is your A horizon. Okay, yung topsoil natin. And then BT, again, B horizon na accumulated. This is, BT is B horizon na may accumulated clay. And C at saka si D, this is a characteristic of mineral soils, not organic soils. So, tandaan nyo basta kapag organic soils, usually ang marami dyan, organic matter at saka humus. Okay? Whereas kapag mineral soils naman, maraming accumulations of clays, sand, silt, and other mineral particles. Next. A farmer is choosing between two liming materials. Meron siyang pinipiling dalawang liming materials. Material X has higher calcium carbonate equivalent. So, mas mataas ang calcium carbonate equivalent ni material X. And mas pino yung particles niya kaysa kay material Y. Which statement is most accurate for field use? Now, basically, ang tinatanong dyan is, sino kaya ang mas mabilis makapag-neutralize ng acidic na lupa? Si material X ba? Or si material Y? Now, ang lupa natin, guys, kapag yan ay acidic, ibig sabihin, ang pH ay mababa or mataas? Mababa ang pH, no? Ngayon, para pataasin, kasi nga kapag acidic yung lupa, nagkakaroon yan ng problema and nakakapagdulot yan ng sakit and pinsala doon sa pananim natin. Si farmer, ang ginagawa niya, gusto niya i-neutralize yung acidity. And ano yung way ni farmer to neutralize acidity? Lime. Okay? Liming. And the effectivity of liming material is based on its neutralization power. And paano mo masasabi na ang lime material ay mataas siya mag-neutralize? Ibig sabihin, mabilis siyang mag-react doon sa acid and mabilis niyang i-neutralize yung acidic na lupa. So nakadepende yan sa dalawang factor. The number one factor is CCE or yung tinatawag nating calcium carbonate equivalent at yung pagiging pino ng liming materials. So ano yung general rule natin? The higher the CCE, the faster yung neutralization power. Okay? So kapag mas mataas ang CCE, mas mataas ang calcium carbonate equivalent, mas mataas rin yung kapangyarihan niya to neutralize the acidic soil. Kapag mas pino ang lupa, dahil kapag mas pino ang liming material, dahil mas pino, ibig sabihin, mas madaling ma-absorb ng lupa. Ibig sabihin, mas mabilis din siyang makapag-neutralize. So, given that analysis, din ang tamang sagot dito. So, between material X and material Y, sino ang may mas mataas na neutralization power? Si material X. Si material X, bakit? Kasi mas mataas ang CCE niya at mas pino yung liming particles niya. So, hanapin natin. Material Y will generally react faster. Mali. Kasi nga si material X yung magre-react faster. Both materials will react at the same time. Mali. Material Y will neutralize more acidity because of lower CCE. Mali. Material X will generally react faster and neutralize more acidity per unit mass. Yan po ang tama. So the correct answer is letter D. Okay? Letter D yan. Next. Which pattern best describes how soil pH affects nutrient availability in many crops? So titignan natin, base sa mga statements na to, alin kaya dyan ang pinakatama with regards to soil pH and its effect on crops. Simulan natin dito sa pinakababa. Most nutrients are available only at pH below 3.5. O kapag ang pH ay 3.5, yan ba ay acidic or alkaline? Acidic yan, no? Mababa. Now, if the pH is acidic, generally, unfavorable yan sa crops. So, bakit unfavorable sa crops? Una, kakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na aluminum toxicity or deficiency. Okay na? Kapag mababa ang pH, ang aluminum nagiging sobra-sobra, so it is toxicity. Okay? So, at pH 3.5, magkakaroon ka dyan ng toxicity. And at this pH, maraming mga nutrients ang hindi available. How about letter C? Nutrients are equally available across all pH levels. Tama ba yun? Mali, no? Actually, ang nutrients, meron yung sweet spot kung saan available silang lahat. How about letter B? Most nutrients are available only at pH above 9. O kapag ang pH is above 9, is that alkaline or acidic? A pH above 9, that is too alkaline. And kapag masyadong mataas ang pH, okay, a high pH can also reduce some important micronutrients. Ano yung pwedeng pa-reduce na micronutrients? Iron, di ba? Iron can be reduced. At the same time, aluminum can also be reduced kapag masyadong mataas ang pH. So, instead of toxicity, deficiency na yan. So, by process of elimination, kapag mali, si D, C, at saka si B, ang pinakatama ay si letter A. Okay? So, sabi sa letter A, many nutrients are most available near slightly acidic to neutral pH. Tama naman po. Usually, ang pH na the best sa halaman or sa lupa para available yung nutrients is around 6 to 7. So, yan yung pH na optimum sa halaman. Sa lupa, para optimum sa halaman, para yung lupa makapag-hold ng lahat ng nutrients na kailangan ng halaman. And finally, we have this. Which option best matches the intended meaning of soil ending use across soil order names in taxonomy? So may iba-iba tayong mga iba-iba tayong mga soil orders, tama? Meron tayo for example na ultisol, meron tayong aridisol, and then meron tayong molisol. So ang tinatanong, dyan is, ano ba daw ba yung ibig sabihin ng sol na yan? What is the meaning of sol? So, ang ibig sabihin ng sol na yan is that sol means soil, basically. Right? So it just simply means soil. So soil in soil taxonomy simply indicates that the name refers to a soil body. So, ang tamang sagot dyan ay letter A. Okay? A suffix indicating that the material is a soil body being classified. So, bakit mali si D? So, sabi dyan si D, a suffix indicating the soil is always organic and peat dominated. Mali yan. Okay? In fact, prefix dapat yung makikita mo dyan. Hist. Okay? Yan. Kaya nga, di ba, meron kang tinatawag na histosol. So, hist, ibig sabihin yan, organic or peat dominated. So, soil that is organic and peat dominated is histosol. Yan, di ba? Letter C, bakit mali yan? A suffix indicating that the soil is always young and recently deposited. Actually, ang tawag sa soil order na yan ay NT. NT soil. So what does NT means? NT means simply young. Ay, young soils. Yeah. Or recently developed soils. Letter D. A suffix indicating that the soil is always saline and requires leaching. Mali rin po yan. Kasi nga, ang ibig sabihin ng soil is soil body. Soil body is being classified. So that's it, mga ag learners. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for always watching my videos. I hope you've learned a lot from these videos. Tandaan, lagi kong sinasabi, di bali nang magkamali tayo ngayon sa review. Huwag lang pagdating sa exam. So review lang ng review, sagot lang ng sagot ng mga tanong, because the best way to review is to answer questions. Ulitin ko, di bali nang magkamali tayo ngayon, huwag lang pagdating sa exam. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.